Hey, what's going on out there, everybody? This is Samuel Leggett here, representing Team JVS, here to give you guys another movie review. This dropped July the 4th, and the name of this movie is called Sound of Freedom. This is an amazing movie on so many different levels, but I'm going to give you a small little backdrop. This was directed by Alejandro Monteverde. This is starring the amazing Jim Caviezel, if you've seen, of course, Person of Interest, an old school show, but one of his breakout performances absolutely is The Passion of the Christ, directed by Mel Gibson. This is also starring Bill Camp. If you've seen The Queen's Gambit, as well as Dark Water, he was starring that. But this movie is about a brother and a sister, and unfortunately, the backdrop of this film is surrounding trafficking, not just regular trafficking, but child trafficking. Um, and this is a very hard movie to get through, but it's a very pivotal and important one. But the background is you have a little boy and his sister, and they get tricked, they get abducted, and they have a father that is doing everything in his power to try to find them, and he is having absolutely no ability to be able to save his children. And they are stuck in a whirlpool of malice that Jim Caviezel, as a federal agent, that's what he lives and breathes. He's Homeland Security. So his job is to go and try to stop pedophile, try to stop child trafficking. But most of the time, it's not a situation where he's able to successfully retain the children. It's more so stop it and keeping it at bay. Um, One, I'm gonna just say that Jim Caviezel in this movie is phenomenal. Like his performance in this is very fascinating because everything about the way that he moves, the way that he interacts, the way that he feels deeply, it leads me to believe like a man that's been doing this for years and years and years, and he is unable to be desensitized by it, but more so like his interior is deplenished. Like he has nothing left in the tank. Um, but he feels as though he has to do something. Like the way that he carries himself like a soldier, the way that he moves, like everything about his performance, it is very believable that he is nailing it. But the thing that makes his performance so fascinating is that every single emotional moment where a person would crack under pressure or would not be able to maintain themselves. Like he holds it in for a small sliver of time, but then eventually he cannot maintain himself. And I think that those small little nuances of that performance shine through in this specifically. But the movie itself, and even there at the end of the movie, if you go get the opportunity to see this amazing movie, and I'll tell you, this is one of the best films this year. Um, at the end of the movie, he lets it made known that the point of this movie is to bring awareness to this sycophantic modern day slavery that is still going and is running rampant, and that his character Timothy or uh, um, to my he is considered kind of like a saint, but really he's not the hero of this. This is the little boy and his sister trying to survive in a system that is locking them in. Now, the performances by these two uh, young leads are amazing as well, and I think that they are the highlight on so many different levels. And it's not just the fact that their performances are good, but they're just so believable, and they're just such great kids. And the interesting thing about it is the main little girl, played by Cristal Aparicio, her character Rucio, she's the one that is trying to inspire like the song in and of itself. Like the very first shot, you see her kind of beating on the drum and singing, and it's the impression of the song of freedom. And as the movie progresses, it's like, is that something that's still capable? Is that a possibility? And then Lucas Alviera, he does an amazing job as the character Miguel. Like their performance is just so good because they they're not just doing a great job as being like kids, but the trauma of everything that's going on. The thing about this, and I'll give this credit to Alejandro, the director, he does not glamorize the things that are happening in this. What I mean by that is there is no nudity in this. There is no technically there's no sexual content in this movie, but the implications and things that are implied and the violence and the abuse and the trauma, it's all air apparent, which is the thing about like great filmmakers. They understand tact. That there's some situations where is absolutely shown and foreseen what is going on, but there are ways of directing and editing and profiling circumstances that are even harsher than actually showing it. Where there's a scene where Jim Caviezel's character Tim is looking through a portfolio, for instance, and the portfolio is kind of showing like depicted images of these kids that have been sold in slavery and then going into video of what's going on. And I see nothing. We see nothing as the audience, but his performance is showing the disgust and the pain of what he has to be subjugated to, but more than anything, what these kids have to live through. And I think that that is very amazing because to not show anything and yet the implication is there, the understanding is completely there. That's profound because in a movie like this, I cannot take actually seeing, but I think it's even worse understanding what's happening. And I think again, that goes back to their performances and the way the direction is done by Alejandro, but it's also scenery. This is a very well shot film on so many different levels. Like there's transitions going between different countries and just small little shots, whether it's a close up of a family member, whether it's a close up of one of the kids in their emotional turmoil, or it's just a quiet scene. Like the cinematography and the scope is amazing in this. This is great cinematography. Matter of fact, it's great editing too because they don't they don't waste scenery. Like there's only a small amount of interactions with Tim and his family. And again, I'm gonna preface it like this. This is based on a true story, just so you completely know. And I was kind of like, oh well, they're gonna have this long drawn out thing and it's gonna have moments with his family. Like, no, like they are boom, boom, boom. Like the editing is very tight and they make sure that every line of dialogue is essential to how this progresses. Now, there are certain moments, like, and this is just me nitpicking, it's not that much, where, there's a transition where Tim as a character, he's like just rocked with what he's just seen. And then all of a sudden, like he's laughing because he's trying to get across what he needs. But the way that I kind of let that go is because this man emotionally and mentally is probably checked out. Like he's seeing things that normal people shouldn't see on a regular basis. So I can imagine him psychologically going back and forth between like smiling to serious, because even with his job, like he's having to fake how he feels with some of these criminals to be able to even catch them and implicate them. But again, like I give so much credit to the young actors. Like again, like their performances work in tandem with the amazing cinematography. And at the same exact time, some of the scenarios that seem like, man, this is going to be so, I just can't watch. Like they cut just the right way. So it's implied, but you don't have to sit there and see it. The last time that something like that happened was the movie Till, about Emmett Till that came out last year. And, some of that stuff, it could have shown like all this and that, but it chose not to. But you understand, you fully get what happened, what's happening, and how sick and evil it truly is. Again, like it's hard for me to review this movie because this isn't just a movie, this is real. Like my prayers and my heart goes out to family members out there that have had this happen to them, like their kids or their cousins or their, whoever that they know, like this happened to these children like this. Like this is not just me saying this as a critic. Like this is me looking at this from a scope standpoint. I think that I've been exposed in my younger life to, certain programs that have been trying to fight child trafficking and trafficking in general. And there's a lot of seminars, there's a lot of details all over the net. Matter of fact, this movie actually had a QR code that you can go and check out if you want to, bring more people to the cinema to see this, to bring awareness. But I think there's also more details on how you can be able to go and try to help with stopping child trafficking, bringing awareness to it. It is very real. So I think that's why this is kind of hard for me to review it, because it's not just based on a piece of fiction. This is a great story. It's shot well. Matter of fact, the cinematography is great. The score is really great. Acting is amazing. Even like Bill Camp does an amazing job in this one. Like there's a scene with Bill and Jim, where they're in a diner and they're just kind of having a deep conversation about something, and Bill just chews that scenery up. He does such an amazing job with this one. But the other thing about this film is that even though they don't show stuff, like it's suggested and it's implied. So this is very heavy-handed. Like I invoke and recommend people see this movie, absolutely, but make sure if you're going to take kids or anybody like that, make sure you screen it ahead of time so they understand what's happening if you want them to, versus them kind of just gauging or guessing. So that's the only disclaimer that I would say. I really don't have any faults with this film. It's a clear-cut, important movie, but I think it's a very well put together one. And there's plenty of movies out there that have great messages and are very important, very pivotal. But it's a rarity to have something, on this small scale, look so grand, look so good, and be so important all at the same exact time. Highly recommend you go and check out Sound of Freedom. I give this a plus, and I'm going to recommend this to everybody if you can. But again, I think the hard part about this is that it's such a real situation. So, it's at a heavy heart, and my prayers go out to all the families that are infected by this, and all the children that have been or are subjugated to stuff like this. So yeah, make sure you check out this movie. Don't even worry about liking and subscribing. Just go and check this movie out. And if you find it in your heart that you want to find more about, child trafficking and what's going on, go Google it. I promise you'll have resources that will be able to provide you more insight on what you can be able to do to bring awareness, to fight against this terrible evil and injustice. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace, people. Have a good one.
Falling out the top of
I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind.